Is it true that one can turn pain and grief into something that is purposeful, meaningful, and perhaps beautiful? Today's guest, Tiffany Walker with One More Time, we're going to be exploring that concept and her journey into making that a reality. Welcome, Tiffany. It is such a joy, but also a blessing to have you here. So we met. I still wonder how we actually got to meet, because it's still vague to myself and to Anna, who with Bitterroot Publishing House, as to how we actually got to meet you.
It was kind of random. A friend that is also on my board, we were talking about a request that came up about publishing a book, and she said, you know, a girlfriend of mine published a book here locally, let me find out the name. She got the name, and then I looked Bitterroot up online, and Anna and I started talking, and that was kind of how it went.
And then we met, and we started to get to know you, and right from the start it was an impossible request to say no to, and it was a gentleman who was an intellectual, definitely an intellectual, a biblical scholar, and a reverend, and had studied multiple religions, had multiple degrees, had translated from Aramaic and ancient Greek certain texts of the Bible into English, and was half American Indian, but also had been adopted by another American Indian tribe. And this was his book that he wanted published before he passed away. And that is what One More Time is about, is it not?
We help adults with life-limiting issues have a memorable experience one more time. So typically we do work with people on hospice or that are terminal, but we are open to doing things for people that might have a lifelong disability, like learning, and somebody might want to learn how to read that has had dyslexia and not ever been able to jump over that, and we would find a way to do it. But just something that is holding them back from having that experience that they want so much.
Completing a loop of,
exactly.
In their life that will add meaning to them. So do you think that what they're asking for helps regret?
Definitely. I have found that with most of our requests that it's something, instead of doing it truly one more time, it's doing it one time before they pass. I really have found that seems to be more of the requests.
Right, because we found out that Nada had actually published quite a few books.
Right.
But this was a particularly special one for him because it was of his vision quests as a member of these tribes, but it also incorporated his background with a PhD in psychology and his studies in other religions. And I was the editor for the book, and it was profound. It was profound, and so we will let people know when it is published. But in this One More Time, we weren't able to publish it before he passed away, but we did give him that opportunity to have a reading and at Elk Point, overlooking the lake, and having at least acknowledged.
Exactly.
And so we were very proud of that, but more importantly, we were able to acknowledge Nada as the magnificent person he was, and his influence still is going to last a long, long time, especially through his book. And this One More Time has enabled this book to go out there and perpetuate him on. Are you finding that out with other people when you gave an art class?
We had an artist that had taught in college, taught art classes, and so she did like a paint and sip, and we had a real fun time with that.
So she wanted to do one more class where she could transfer her knowledge.
And it was a little different because she had said, I think it was probably Pinot's palette or one of those that she saw. She's like, I want to do one of those wine classes that I keep seeing. I said, oh, do you want to go to one? And she said, no, I want to teach one. So we had a fun afternoon, and we had wine and cheese and little cheesecakes and things that a facility in Spokane made us, and it was a fun afternoon.
So everything that everyone did there is a little bit of connected to her that will go on and last.
And I say that a lot with all our fundraising and the people that are involved, even if they're not the direct person getting it, getting the gift or the memorable experiences, that I feel that everyone's getting something out of the memorable experience. And I've said that with our fundraising things, that if somebody doesn't say, oh, I can't wait to do this again next year, that there really is no point in doing it. I mean, you can raise money non-fund ways, you can go write grants and things like that. But if we're actually going to involve the community, I want it to be something special for each person involved.
So it sounds like what's important for these people is not items, it's more experience.
Oh, definitely. I haven't had anybody actually ask for a tangible item. I haven't had somebody say, oh, I'd love to have a baseball, that kind of thing. But definitely
because I think that's something that we need to talk about is experiences.
Oh.
And I've read a quote somewhere, and it said something about, some of the wealthiest people know that to maximize that asset is to spend their resources on experiences, not necessarily things. And so you're finding that's the case with this population?
I'm finding it's the case with a lot of people in general. The population, since my father passed, it's definitely a priority to me that, I do these things with my family and especially my children before, hypothetically, I pass away at 58. I think of those kind of things.
So this is something that we would like to hear from you all about, your experiences that were a treasure with someone that you lost and it was unexpected, or also if someone knew that they were going to pass, what was a beautiful experience that you shared with them that by noting it up here and sharing it with us, that continues that memory with other people and adds a depth of value to it. But that's a reality that we have to face at some time in all of our lives, because we've all had loss. Do you think that with loss comes a sense of appreciation?
Yes, because the things that might have annoyed you when someone was alive, you find more endearing and you miss when they're gone. A specific thing, I recently said that my dad would always give me guff about my snow tires. And have you got your snow tires on? And you're driving my grandchildren around, and get your snow tires on. And for whatever reason, I thought of that recently, and I was like, as much as he drove me nuts and I told him he sounded like an old woman, it's one of those things that, oddly enough, I actually miss having someone.
It was his way to care.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It sounds there's a concept in Japanese called WabiSabi, which is the beauty of imperfection. And it's a beautiful concept, so that if you, in a tea bowl, a cha one, you break it. If you break it, you don't discard it, you repair it, and it actually becomes more valuable in the repair. And so it's like our scars, as they start to heal our wounds, they treasure these bowls, these tea bowls, and they'll actually put them on display, not as something broken, but as something more beautiful because it was valuable, and they repaired it with golden lacquer. And so with this concept of wabi-sabi, it's almost applied to those situations where you've got people that slightly annoy you with the best of caring and intention, but there's actually love with it. And that brings two things up as well, is quaint or sincere, endearing imperfections versus the when it tips over the edge to something that's not great. And we'll touch on that in a bit. But that with grief, though, that can send you over. So is this organization that you created, one more time, is this a way for you to pick up the pieces of your heart with your dad dying to make something more beautiful?
Oh, definitely. when the idea first came up, so my father passed away and I was going through the stages of grief. And about 9 months later, I had a patient that actually in the car with me had Huntington's disease, which is horrible.
I've witnessed.
And she was young. She was only 56. And I was actually taking her to see the doctor so that she could have the face-to-face to get on hospice. That's a weird Medicare rule. And she passed away 3 days later. But on the drive home, she asked to continue driving when we had pulled into the driveway. And so we did nothing special. We drove around Post Falls. And when I took her home and then she passed away, like I said, 3 days later, I remember thinking, well, that felt so good and I can't take a ride with my dad anymore, but I could do this with somebody's mom or sister or brother or husband. And it literally, like, I was smoldering in the back of my head, this, oh, what should I do with this sadness I feel about dad? And then she was the catalyst that, well, you could do this and you could do it with this person or this person. Just because you can't do it with your father anymore doesn't mean you can't do it.
So if you'd like to explain to everyone what you do as your career at this current point in time.
Community outreach for a home health company. So I'm around people that have various diseases or recent orthopedic surgeries, those kind of things. And so with that knowledge, skill set, whatever you want to call it, but also the group of people that I was already working with for referrals and to help with healing processes there, that's how I've also got referrals and things for one more
So you
time.
interface with various people, and then in your role, what do you do with this organization and those people?
I do a little bit of everything. I help get the referrals, help get the doctor's orders, those kind of things. But I also work as the CNA for our company. So I do a lot of the one-on-one bathing, things like that. It's not a high, often need with home health, or it's a short term, but a couple of people I've grown very close to just because you get so intimately involved with that.
Yeah. So your background is you've got a degree in biology, and then you've got an MBA. So you start this nonprofit. Now, I know that nonprofits are not easy to initiate. I facilitated one for my daughter and her friend, Kids Aid, and we had the lovely and generous pro bono help of attorneys, including a tax attorney, and it still wasn't easy. So you got it straight off the bat, didn't you?
Yes. So right after the woman I talked about earlier passed away, I made up my mind to do this, and I bought a book off the internet, and I don't have it with me, but it was very simple, how to start your own nonprofit, something like that. And I just started from the beginning, filed, with the Secretary of the State of Idaho to get a business license, and then went on, and then did the 501c3 paperwork with the IRS.
And that's the toughest part,
yes.
Usually.
Yeah, that's everyone. It was very hard for me because I was afraid of messing up, and I keep saying that I'm afraid of very few things, but admitting to failure is one of them. And I didn't tell many people that I was doing it. Didn't even tell my mother and my sister that I was doing it till I had already submitted the paperwork. But it took me, it's only 3 pages, and it took me a very long time because every line I'd go back to my book or back to the internet to see, okay, what do I really want to put here? And so it probably took me a month to fill out 3 pages of paperwork just because I was second guessing everything. Then it told me that when you submitted it, that it could take up to 6 months. And so I got it back in 3 weeks, and it was a very thin envelope, and I refused to open it because I knew it must be a denial because I just assumed it was going to be this huge packet. But so, yeah, my first time submitting it to the IRS, I got the approval.
So what was the response from your mom and your family?
It sounded like a great idea, and they loved it, and they were there to support me, but that they weren't going to do any of that crazy paperwork.
Okay, so, right. What was the response from your colleagues, and then also when you started to share this with the demographics that you're working with?
So I spoke earlier about how I met you through my friend that's the treasurer. When I first approached her, Amy is her name, her husband was terminal with cancer. And I said, so I'm doing this and this paperwork for the IRS and I've submitted it, but I don't want to wait and I want to do something for Gary. And she was so hilarious. And she's like, so we're going to go back to Gary, but I want to talk about your nonprofit. I said, no, we're here. And we were over breakfast and we're very good friends. And we just went back and forth. And she's like, but I want to help with your nonprofit. And I said, your husband's sick. I want to help your husband. And we just kind of bickered about it. So in the end, I helped Gary and we had a retirement dinner for him that had about 400 people. And I did all of the food, and I didn't do it personally. I had a lot of help from a lot of people, but I organized the food. And then Amy joined my board and is the treasurer.
Do you think that now that you started this and this is helping you, that it helped Amy?
I would say so. I think that it's people will always tell me how giving I am, and I snicker every time I hear it because I think I get more than I give, and it's very hard to explain that to people because yes, you're giving yourself, but the smiles and the feelings and the enjoyment, it helps with everything.
Well, it's like with us here and here with Gary V and anyone that is out there and anyone who is, that we've interviewed as well, and any other entrepreneurs, is that when you're creating something of value, you just, it's enriching in so many ways. It's fantastic. So have you found that out? How many people do you have on the board?
We have 10, and then we kind of just lost one. But it's funny, even with that, we're losing him because he's moving to Bozeman. But first thing he said was, if you're interested in opening a group and spreading into Montana, I'd like to stay on the board and do that. So he doesn't even really want to leave.
So why not?
And I brought it up actually at the board meeting yesterday because I love Bozeman and Montana, and I said I am fine with doing that. So
Bozeman.
yes,
we love Montana.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I had said that previously. So Mullen, that I grew up on, is on the border of Montana and Idaho. It's as close to Montana as it is to the next town. So growing up, we would go to dinner in Montana and not think twice of it. And that western part of the state is very limited on resources because it is so rural. And I have said for a full year that I would like to help people out in Saltese and things like that because they don't even have close health care, let alone these types of programs. So it definitely is something that I think that we might go with. But like I said, once they join, people just really, well, what's the next thing we're doing? What can we do? And everybody likes the idea.
Has there been a conflict? Did your company that you're working for, does it see that there's a conflict between you and what you're doing? Are you able to separate it?
There is no conflict, and it's very funny. I was talking to somebody, one of our fundraisers right before Christmas was a Festival of Trees. And one of the residents at the facility was asking me, oh, do you do this full time? And I said, no, I have a full-time job as well as this nonprofit. And she said, oh, well, what do you do? Or what does your boss think of this? And I said, well, that tree right there, he paid for it, and our director of nursing and his girlfriend decorated it. So he supports me financially, mentally. I'm very, very blessed at my full-time job and the support that they give my nonprofit.
Who's your job? Where's your job and who's your boss?
Reliant Home Health and Mike Gallegos, and then Sally Johnson is our director of nursing. And between the two of them, they have financially sponsored every fundraiser we've had and then been involved.
That's fantastic.
And their family's been involved. Their kids, stepkids have helped serve at the event. I mean, they support me 100%.
That is brilliant. So thanks, guys.
They're wonderful.
That's part of being a good entrepreneur, a good boss, is that ability, in our perspective, in our worldview, is to go off and to enable and encourage and mentor people to go off and shine and be the best that they can be. And I know that you're doing a brilliant job.
No,
what you're doing.
I couldn't do it without them.
Yeah, but I'm sure that this is enhancing them as well. So it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. So what's the difference between One More Time and, say, Make-A-Wish Foundation?
The age. It definitely is. Make-A-Wish sticks with children. and you know, 18 and under, and so we are that stepping stone.
Is there anyone else that's doing what you're doing?
Certainly not in the inland Northwest. You know, that was one of the things when I filed with the Secretary of State. There's absolutely not in Idaho. And there is no, I had a lot of trouble. You have to categorize yourself for the IRS, and there's nothing for adults as far as the category goes for this. So we are just a straight charity.
You really are creating your own niche. And I'm surprised because I'm sure I'm not the only one, guys, is that I assumed that there were others out there doing this.
And there might be, and maybe they're on a small enough level that it didn't pick up, or maybe they're doing it more of a grassroots than through a 501c3.
Or we just might be assuming that it's just being done.
Exactly.
And, you know, we've got this one Make-A-Wish Foundation and just assume that covers, I knew it covered children, but for some reason, I think that it also, and I made this obviously wrong assumption that it also covered adults.
And my understanding, it might be like 21 or 22. There might be a little overlap there, but that it really is for children.
So what is your criteria at this point in time? Because I know that you can't service everyone who has a final wish, and I know that you would love to. But what is your criteria at this point in time, both with the patient or the person and their wish?
So far, we haven't had any problems with that. And you asked earlier, like, what I could use. Right now, we have a unique problem for a nonprofit. We have a lot of money in the bank and haven't had that many wishes. And because the wishes that we have had, like I said, they're not these big crazy things. They're really, let's have a birthday party, a retirement party, let's go camping, that they haven't spent all of that much money. So our criteria is we have an application that you fill out, and so then it says, what is your disability? Why do you fall in line with our mission? And then what is your request? Because of your disability, will you have problems with this? And that's more just so that we know what we're working with. Our current wish that we're working on, or memory experience, is a woman that used to break horses, and she'd like to ride a horse again. Break in horses, yeah.
Didn't break them.
Didn't break their legs, but break in horses. And so she would like to ride a horse again, but she is in a wheelchair. And so just yesterday, talking with a friend at lunch, she knew someone that has a ramp to put the wheelchair up, so it really is a very easy transfer.
And also Pasifina horses are brilliant for disabled people because their gait is so smooth. And they use a lot of the Pasafinos from Colombia in Special Olympics. So if anyone out there has Pasifina horses that are trained for Special Olympics, that would be great. But also we're going to put Tiffany's link down below in the descriptor, how to find Tiffiany. So as your nonprofit grows, and we want it to be as successful as possible, are you also looking for volunteers for, you might want medical personnel who do have, for example, experience with ports or other specialized devices that will enable them to sort of get out of the hospital environment or the caretaking environment out, and that they've got someone there assisting you and assisting that experience. So do you need some more volunteers and need to start creating a roster?
Always open to volunteers. The other thing that I did leave out when I said, so that after they fill out the request, the board approves it, because like you said, I say yes to everything. And so there is that little catch-all there for them to say they've never said no. But, if something was ridiculous or hard.
Your board is, so who's on your board? So do you have an assortment of people?
Mm-hmm. It's an assortment. We're always looking to obviously get new and different people in, because a lot of it is healthcare, just because that is my background. But we also have a teacher and a banker that belong to the board. We have a nurse, my director of nursing, Sally. Like I said, they're so supportive. She's on my board of directors. Several marketing professionals. So definitely a diverse group, but I would say of the 10 that 7 of them are healthcare related. So
fundraising is always such a big chunk of anyone's time with a nonprofit. And so what are you doing for fundraising?
Last year we had 2 events that went very well, so we're continuing them this year. We actually are starting the planning process. We have meetings, in January. We did a ruby red, and so it was Wizard of Oz theme, and it was our signature event, and it was a dinner theater evening. And so we're doing the same thing this year, but it's going to be Little Mermaid themed and call it Under the Sea.
So why do you do children's theme for a fundraiser?
Well, the Wizard of Oz, it came about, a friend of mine came back from maternity leave and found out what I was up to. And she said, oh, I want to do a fundraiser for you. So we started thinking about, what could we do? And I said, I've never been to a red carpet with the lights flashing and the paparazzi. So it started with that. And then she asked what my favorite movie was. And it's Wizard of Oz. Okay. And so that's how that started. The Under the Sea, last year, that's what Coeur d'Alene High School did for their play last spring. And so it gives you the actors already. So we'll have the kids do the performance.
So they're doing the performance. So it's a dinner theater.
Exactly.
Okay, right.
So Wizard of Oz, we had CYT did a lot of it. And so then we thought, well, if we stick with something.
It's a good use of resources.
Exactly.
And then the kids, you always want to continue performing once you. So why did you like Wizard of Oz, and who was your favorite character?
As a child, my favorite character was Dorothy or the lion. And the lion was my favorite character because my dad did an exceptional imitation of him. He would do the put him up, and he was adorable doing it. As I've gotten older, because of Wicked and things like that, I really do like the Wicked Witch. And it's just funny that changes in your mind as you read different things.
So why do you like the Wicked Witch? What's about her that's appealing?
I think she is misread by most people, and that there's a reason she's angry. And then it was funny because I had already kind of thought that as a teenager and in my 20s. And then when Wicked came out, I'm like, it's like this man read my mind. Because have you ever read it?
No, and that's
Gregory Maguire.
No,
it's her. And like Glinda was mean to her in high school, and she was really a nice girl. And then they made fun of her,
the victim,
and she had green skin, and nobody liked her, and this aversion to water, and so they just kept being mean to her. And then even the castle with the flying monkeys, she just wanted to be left alone. And so then Dorothy came out there bugging her.
So it's a really important awareness. So whenever you see people who go and say, I don't know why so-and-so's doing this, and just be very, very cautious that you're not getting caught up as a codependent or an enabler into something that might be a little bit more nefarious. And so both of us have got experience with this. And one of the reasons why I think your story is so compelling is not only it was the grief that you have used as a catalyst to turn something into something beautiful. You're turning shit into shine. And a lot of us who are entrepreneurs, and you are an entrepreneur because a 501c3 is a business. So just like in alchemy, we are transforming something negative into something much more positive. So we're reframing energy and negativity into something that's, it was also a source of fuel. I see it as a source of fuel. So definitely you're using your grief as a fuel for this. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't deny the grief and the value of your dad. In fact, it enhances him, honors and blesses him and you and everyone else. But you are also going through some other difficult times, which I think that we'll just touch on very, very briefly. But Tiffiany is a great role model for all of us out there when times are getting tough and we start something beautiful, or we want to start something beautiful, and then something else comes in to kick us in the side of the head. And you're going through you started this nonprofit, and now you're going through this incredibly difficult time personally. You've got 4 young children. The youngest is 4.
Yep.
And you're dealing with a domestic situation which is not unfamiliar to maybe many people out there, and many people hide it, and many people may use it as a reason to not go forward, and understandably so, but you're not.
Well, I did for a very long time.
Right.
And it was kind of comical, as you say, that I had shared with you that a false accusation was made to CPS, and I was actually being interviewed by the gentleman, and he asked me if I had a drug history, because I had been so understanding, I think was the word he used, to my partner's drug use. And I said, I'm not understanding of it, and we fought about it all the time. I just didn't feel able to move on until it became so awful. And he understood that after, but he actually asked me that, and I'm like, yeah. And I said, nope, no drug use of any kind, but you feel free to test my hair or my urine. But it actually came up in the conversation because it has been a tumultuous relationship for a long time. And I had said that I wish that women or men, because you can be abused both ways.
Goes both ways.
That we didn't have a society that doesn't want to hear it or wants you to just hide it or be strong, because it's, as people are finding out what I've been going through, specifically the last year has been pretty awful. But even before that, it was tumultuous is the best word to use. But they would say, I never would have thought this, because I would walk out the door and I'd fix my makeup and I would put on a strong face and be my bubbly, happy self that I have to be for marketing. And even as I have told people that, oh, my husband threatened to kill me, or my husband's in jail, and I would say it with a smile, they would say, you're either the most adaptive person I've ever met, or you're kind of crazy, because I
maybe a bit of both.
Exactly,
maybe a bit
because
of both.
I could just say it with, and it's like, well, now once you say it once, you broke that ice, and it's like, it gets easier and easier. And I blamed myself for a lot of it, and the enabling for sure. I know I did, but I tried to decide which was the lesser evil. Was it better to enable and him come home sometime or eventually, and we would have a few good days, months even, or was it better to end it? And I kept choosing to continue going, because we did have children together, and I even now still love him very much, but I don't even know the person that he's become.
Thank you for watching the video. I know that you're excited in following these people. Hit like, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you in your journey too.